believe what I found on his laptop. So, this is my story. You can call me Grace. For many years, my life looked like the kind of life people admire from a distance. The kind of life people point at and say, that family is blessed. My husband is the head pastor of one of the biggest churches in Accra, the capital city of Ghana. Every Sunday, thousands of people fill the auditorium. They listen to his sermons. They respect him. They honor him. From the outside, we looked like the perfect family. A respected pastor, a loyal wife, a beautiful daughter. But the truth is, the life people envied was built on secrets. And what you're about to hear is only the part I chose to reveal. Every Sunday, I liked sitting in the front row. It had become my quiet routine over the years. From that seat, I could see everything clearly. The choir, the congregation, and most of all, my husband while he preached. Let's call my husband Daniel. Daniel was the kind of preacher people loved listening to. His voice was calm, confident, convincing. When he spoke about faithfulness, commitment, and integrity, people nodded their heads, wrote notes, and whispered amen as if every word was gold. And for many years, I believed every word. Looking back now, I realized there were signs I ignored, small things that seemed harmless at the time. One of those signs was someone very close to the church. Let's call her Abena. Abena was the choir leader, talented, confident, and very visible in church activities. Daniel and Abena spent a lot of time talking after services, sometimes about choir rehearsals, sometimes about upcoming church programs. That was what I believed. Being married to a pastor means you get used to a certain lifestyle. Pastors travel often, conferences, revivals, church assignments in other cities. Daniel traveled often to Kumasi for church programs. Sometimes he would call me late at night from wherever he said he was staying. We would talk normally. I trusted him completely. After all, pastors travel all the time for the Lord's work. One evening, we were having dinner together when Daniel casually mentioned he had a church meeting later that night. There was nothing unusual about that. Church meetings happened often. But earlier that afternoon, something strange had happened. I received a message from a number I didn't recognize. The message said, "Your husband does not belong to only you." At first, I thought it was a prank. Anonymous messages are easy to ignore, and I had no reason to suspect Daniel. Still, the message stayed in the back of my mind. That evening, Daniel left the house for the meeting. I wasn't planning to follow him, but something made me drive past the hotel district later that night while running an errand. And that was when I saw his car, parked outside a hotel. My heart skipped. At first, I told myself there could be a simple explanation. Hotels have conference rooms. Churches often rent them for meetings. I stayed in my car across the street. A few minutes later, Daniel walked out of the hotel entrance. And he wasn't alone. Abena walked out beside him, and I watched them walking together towards the parking area. They looked comfortable, familiar, laughing softly as they walked. I sat frozen behind the steering wheel. Part of me still tried to convince myself there might be an explanation. Maybe they had just finished a meeting. Maybe other people had already left. Maybe I was misunderstanding what I was seeing. But something in my chest told me otherwise. Without thinking, I picked up my phone. and I took a picture of them together from inside my car. That was the first time something inside me cracked. But I still didn't confront him. Life continued. Weeks passed. Then one evening, during dinner, Daniel mentioned something again. He said he had been invited to Kumasi for a church assignment and would be traveling that evening. There was nothing unusual about that. Like I said, Daniel traveled often for church programs. But that same afternoon, something happened again. Another message arrived on my phone. This one said, "If you want to know who your husband really is, go to Paloma Hotel tonight at 8. And if you are brave enough, don't look away this time." My heart began beating faster because Daniel had just told me he was traveling to Kumasi that night. But the message said Paloma Hotel in Accra. That evening, I watched Daniel prepare for the trip. I even helped him carry and pack his travel bags inside the house. Before leaving the room that night, Daniel kissed me goodbye the same way he always did. And in that moment, I realized how easily someone can lie while looking you directly in the eyes. What I didn't know then was that this goodbye was not the most painful lie I would uncover. I stood there after he left, holding on to that feeling I could no longer ignore. Instead of staying home, I waited a while and then drove towards Paloma Hotel. Daniel's car was already parked there. My heart dropped. This time I decided I needed to know the truth. So I walked into the hotel lobby. I kept my distance and pretended to check my phone. Then I saw them, Daniel and Abena, walking through the lobby together, laughing quietly, moving closely beside each other as they headed for the exit. The moment I saw them walking together like that, everything began to click in my mind. The first hotel sighting, the late nights, the church meetings, the Kumasi trips, the anonymous messages. And as I stood there quietly watching them, I heard Daniel lean closer to Abena and whisper something. "Don't worry, I already told Miriam to process the transfer." That sentence would later expose something far bigger than an affair. At the time, I didn't know what that meant, but I knew one thing. My husband had not gone to Kumasi. He had come to a hotel with another woman. I quietly took another picture. Then I left. When he came home, I pretended everything was okay and life was normal. The next Sunday, I called my best friend. Let's call her Stephanie. Stephanie and I had been friends since the university. She gave me an advice any friend would give you. She said, "Protect your marriage. Also, we need evidence before you can confront him." The following Sunday, I sat again in my usual seat in the front row. Daniel stood at the pulpit like he always did, calm, confident, respected. And that morning he preached about faithfulness in marriage, about honesty, about living a life that pleases God both publicly and privately. The congregation applauded. People shouted amen. And I sat there remembering the hotel. And for the first time, I began to wonder how many people in that room were also living inside lies they refused to confront. Days later, Daniel left his laptop open in the study. I had always known the password. It had always been our marriage anniversary date. So I opened it. There were messages. Many messages. Not just one woman, several. One message said, "Last night was worth the risk." Another said, "Send the hotel location the same way as last time." Another said, "You know I will always take care of you financially." One of the names was Abena, but there were others. More names than I was prepared to see, more conversations than I could process in one sitting. The most shocking name was Ruth. Ruth? My sister? I froze for minutes. Ruth is my sister. We grew up together. At first, I didn't believe it until I saw the phone number and profile picture. That was when I realized the hotel meetings were not a mistake. They were a pattern. And that discovery led me to the church office. That was where I met the church secretary. Let's call her Miriam. Miriam handled church records, financial paperwork, and administrative files. When I mentioned Daniel and hotel payments, she became quiet. But after some minutes, she responded and said she has been waiting for this minute, for the truth to come out, that she was not happy with the misuse of funds by Daniel, but she was manipulated. And then, after a moment, she walked to a cabinet and returned with an envelope. Inside were documents, transfer instructions signed by Daniel, hotel receipts, financial records. Then Miriam revealed something that shocked me. Daniel had been using church funds for personal relationships. He promised Miriam a higher position in the church if she cooperated, and when she hesitated, he pressured her to forge receipts and falsify financial records to cover the transfers. And that was when I realized the affairs were not the biggest secret. Then she slowly read the names connected to the accounts. Abena, the choir leader. Ruth. But I wasn't surprised because I already saw the messages. Then she mentioned Stephanie. I shouted, Stephanie? Stephanie, my best friend. Stephanie, my closest friend, the same woman who advised me to gather evidence before confronting Daniel. I was shocked. But suddenly, I began to wonder something I had never questioned before. Was Stephanie helping me find the truth, or helping Daniel hide something even worse? Instead of confronting her immediately, I called her and pretended I had found nothing. She sounded relieved. She told me not to destroy my marriage over suspicions. That conversation told me everything. From that moment, I stopped reacting. I started watching. During that time, my life slowly began changing. Stephanie started inviting me out more often. Clubs, lounges, late nights in the city to help me forget about what I'm going through. At first, it was just a distraction from the stress I was carrying. But one night at a lounge, something unexpected happened. A young man approached me. Let's call him Robert. Robert approached me. He introduced himself politely and started a conversation. Robert was different from the men in my church circles. Calm, easy to talk to. We started with simple conversations. Then, late night drives through Accra. Music playing softly in the car. Talking about life. Talking about disappointment. Talking about the things people hide behind smiles. One night, I crossed a line I never imagined crossing. I cheated with Robert. At first, Robert did not know I was married. When he eventually found out the truth, he told me we should stop seeing each other, but I persuaded him to continue. Looking back now, I sometimes wonder if I was reacting to pain or becoming part of something much deeper than I understood at the time. And months later, I discovered something that shocked me. I was pregnant. When I told Daniel the news, he was happy. He even preached about how God blessed us. During my delivery,
Daniel was present at the hospital when my daughter Naomi was born. He was happy. He showed her to the church. He thanked God. What he didn't know was that Naomi wasn't his. We had not been intimate for some time after I discovered he was having the affair. Months later, Daniel discovered my relationship with Robert. After that discovery, our marriage became tense, with arguments, silence, distance. Daniel even began preaching sermons about cheating and betrayal in church. People in the congregation had no idea those sermons were connected to the problems inside our home. Or maybe some of them knew more than they should. Our problems got to the church administration. That was when they decided we have to solve the issues internally before it comes out to the public, so it doesn't ruin his image and the church's image. That was when I asked, is that all they care about? Eventually, both families and the church leadership decided we should try to resolve our marital problems privately. So a meeting was arranged. Family members, church elders, and close people within the church leadership. Miriam had to be present because she was the church secretary and handled many administrative matters connected to Daniel. Daniel stood up first and accused me of adultery. The room turned against me immediately. He began speaking about betrayal and sin, but Daniel still believed he controlled the story. So I stood up. First, I showed the picture from the hotel, Daniel and Abena. The room fell silent, but I said that's only the beginning. Then Miriam opened the envelope. She revealed the financial records, the transfers, the forged receipts. Then she read the names again. Abena, Stephanie, Ruth. The room erupted. Stephanie was shaking. Ruth was shaking too. Then she burst into tears. Eventually, Stephanie admitted the truth. She had been secretly involved with Daniel and encouraged me to stay in the marriage because if I left, she would lose access to him. Then Ruth spoke. Ruth confessed that Daniel met her before he ever met me. She revealed that after meeting her, Daniel still went on to propose to me, fully aware of the relationship he already had with her. She also revealed that their relationship continued even after Daniel and I got married. But Ruth shocked everyone when she said she never supported what Daniel was doing. She said she believed Daniel would eventually leave me and come for her until she finally realized she had been lied to the entire time. Just when we thought she was done with the names, that was when Miriam said something that shocked everyone. Daniel had also been involved with her. He also pressured her with promises of promotion to hide the financial crimes, and that she was jealous anytime Daniel asked her to transfer funds and to make hotel reservations. That was when I asked myself, was she the one behind the anonymous messages? I thought I had seen it all. The room was already in chaos, but Daniel said something that shifted everything. He reminded everyone that I had also committed adultery. Some elders nodded. For a moment, it seemed like the confrontation would end there. Then Daniel said he was willing to forgive me and protect our family. That was when I stood up again and said something no one expected. There is one more thing you should know. Pastor Emmanuel said quietly, "Let her speak." I looked at Daniel and asked him one question. "Do you remember the day Naomi was born?" He nodded. Then I told him the truth. Naomi is not your daughter. She is Robert's. The room went completely silent. Daniel stared at me. For the first time that night, he had no words. And the strangest part was, he never asked if it was true. Because asking that question would destroy the image he had spent years building. The perfect pastor, the perfect husband, the perfect family. But even that was not the end of the story. The following Sunday, the church was still full. Daniel still stood at the pulpit, and he preached about forgiveness. People cried, people clapped, people shouted amen. And that was when I learned something about people. Sometimes the truth destroys everything, but sometimes people simply choose not to see it. A few weeks later, Daniel asked to speak with me privately. He finally asked the question he had avoided in front of everyone. Do you remember the day Naomi was born? I looked at him calmly and said, that question doesn't matter anymore. He didn't respond immediately. He just sat there quiet, as if weighing something no one else could see. Then he said something I will never forget, but I have never told anyone exactly what it was. Because what he said made me realize there were still secrets I hadn't uncovered. Secrets that could destroy more than just our marriage. Secrets that could bring down everything people believed about that church. And even now, I cannot tell you whether Daniel forgave me or whether we both chose to live with truths that are too dangerous to speak out loud. Because in the end, some stories don't really end. They just go silent, and the silence is where the real truth hides.